This week's episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is driven by Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos, including everything that you need to take a 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com and sign up for the free preview module and begin your journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast, episode 135. This week on the show, we're mixing it up, and we're doing HP on the spot, where Dan and I take turns interviewing each other. All right, welcome to the 135th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. We're your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. Check us out at hpoutdoors.com. You can find us across all of the quality podcast catchers out there, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere where you can find quality podcasts, you can find our show. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Got a great Facebook group if you're interested in that. And you can get in there and chat with like-minded hunters and my co-host, Dan Hrushka. Dan, what's up, man?
Oh, just living a life, man. Had a dance recital went to today, another one tomorrow. Some, birthday parties coming up and going to those and fun stuff. Both of our son's birthdays Tuesday. That's
right. Yep. We're having my son's party tomorrow. And for those that may not know, Dan and I's, both of our sons share the same birthday, but what are they, 4 years apart? Yep, 4 years apart. So kind of funny how that worked out, but
pretty neat.
It is neat. So this week we're going to do a little something different. We're going to mix it up, and instead of having someone on the show for you and I to interview, we decided to interview each other. So we're going to ask each other some questions. We've not told each other what these questions are going to be, so it'll be a little bit of a surprise and kind of put us on the spot. So we'll see how that turns out. But before we get there, just want to take a minute to thank Gunner Kennels, engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind. The G1 Kennel has set a new industry standard and put Gunner Kennels in a category all its own. Gunner was started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything they do. Gunner Kennels are dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market, because man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at gunnerkennels.com. Also, Big Kansas Outdoors, the premier waterfowl and upland destination in central Kansas. Big Kansas puts you on phenomenal waterfowl hunting in the morning, followed by great afternoon pheasant and quail hunting. Check out their Facebook and Instagram, Big Kansas Outdoors. It's the experience of a lifetime. And also thank you to 737 Duck and Goose Calls. Original design, select grade components, superior sound, and unparalleled service. 737 takes exceptional pride in producing the finest quality, best built premium calls in the market today. They're made right here in America and offered only direct to consumers through their website. Shipping in the U.S. is always free, and international orders are also now accepted online. 20-day money-back guarantee and lifetime warranty accompany every call purchased. 737 Duck Calls lead the flock. So thank you to the companies that support our show. You can also head over to the HP Outdoors website, check out the discounts page, and you can find out how you can save a little bit of coin with some of the great supporters of our show. So definitely head over there and take advantage of that if you're in the market for any gear. All right, Dan. So let's lay out some ground rules here for this little interview that we're going to do with each other.
Well, I already got my questions, so
okay, that's good. I was thinking more of like, are we going to go back and forth? Are we going to do 5 questions and then alternate? Like, how do you want to lay this out here?
Let's go back and forth.
Okay.
I feel like because this was your idea, so I feel like this stemmed from last week when you asked me some questions without me knowing that they were coming. but I kind of enjoy it, and it should be fun.
Well, I mean, what this comes from is I've done this to you before in the past, where I like to kind of just, put you on the spot and have you guess at some things, and just everyone's, I like to bring things onto the show that I haven't told you that I'm going to bring up. It's just kind of a fun thing. So that's definitely kind of the thrust of where this is coming from. But so oftentimes, we ask questions of people that are on the show that we both have strong opinions on, but we don't really deep dive into them too much because we allow the guest, to share their expertise. So sometimes it's nice for us to be able to share our opinions on some of these things. And, again, it's just an opportunity for us to prepare things that neither one of us are ready. We're going to be put on the spot to answer them. So sometimes we don't give the best answer. Sometimes we give incorrect stuff, who knows? But we'll see how it goes. But I think going back and forth probably makes sense. And is a good way to go about doing it. Mm-hmm. So I'll let you. I'll say you won the toss. Do you want to kick or receive?
I'll kick.
Oh, snap. Okay.
No defer.
Not deferring. All right. I'll also take the ball at halftime. It's all good.
But I do, before we get into this, I do want to say Gunner Kennels has been crushing it on Instagram, social media, showing all of these accidents that they're having where their dogs are walking away safely. Yep. And like you said, you did do a promo for them here, but some of these vehicles are just mangled, and the dogs are walking away. People, thank God, are walking away, without injuries, but it's going through some stuff, and it makes me think twice when I put the dogs in the car. So making sure they're in the gunners. But anyway, I'll kick.
Okay. All right. Well,
are you ready?
Yeah. I'll do my best. Are you going to start me off with the softball, or are you going to hit me right out with it?
I'm coming for the chin.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So Josh, I just want to thank you for taking time, hanging out today. And, we're going to get right into it here, but, why do you hunt waterfowl?
Good question. So, I mean, I've talked a little bit about this in the past, but I got into waterfowl hunting originally because I was looking for a way to extend the season. I grew up as a deer and turkey hunter primarily in Pennsylvania, and no one in my family hunted and waterfowl, so I never was exposed to it really. So I didn't start hunting waterfowl until I was kind of out hunting on my own, and the deer season would end like the first Saturday in January, and then we would have the 2-week muzzleloader or whatever. But the season just ended. So I would have all of February and most of January where I wasn't really getting to hunt anything. And then it was just a long time till spring gobbler season started. So back home, we would probably fill that time with ice fishing or something like that. Well, once I moved to Virginia, I didn't have any ice fishing opportunities. So it was really just born out of that is how it started. And then I went on my first ever waterfowl hunt. I went on a guided hunt with a colleague that I knew from work up in Maryland on the Eastern Shore. And I had no expectations. It's your typical, I didn't have any gear. I had my turkey shotgun. I just, whatever, just went with what I had. And I'm telling you, man, that we had a Drake wood duck come into the decoys first light by himself. And I was like, whoa, that was super cool. And it flew out, and as it got up off the water, we let it fly and we shot it. And it was just from that point on, I was like, this is magic. And I just loved the fact that I could talk with my friends, don't have to be super silent. Just the interactions with the birds. Cause that's one of the things that I love about turkey hunting, right? Is being able to call and interact with the game and have them respond. And, I loved that about waterfowl hunting. And just the social aspect, man. I love being able to chat and spend time, not having to be super silent, not having to worry if I smell like crap or not, just having a good time cutting up and all of that. So for me, it's truly just about that social experience and being out there and, interacting with my buddies, or now with my son, having that opportunity. Just, it's something where I can share it and just, it's really that social piece, because I can connect with the outdoors as, going archery hunting. I can get out there and unplug and just all that stuff, but I can't do it with my son like that. And I can't do it with 3 or 4 buddies like that. So as a side note, I love all the gear. I love all the stuff. I love all of that. But at the core of it, it's just that opportunity to spend time in the field with your buddies or your family and just kind of like taking that time to really kind of connect and stuff for me. So that's it, man. That's ultimately why I'm a waterfowl hunter.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that wasn't too bad. All right. Here's my first one for you. What's one thing that you know now that you wish you could have told early hunter Dan? You know, back in the day when you were getting started. What's one thing that you know now that you wish you knew then? Boy, this is riveting podcast right here.
This is. I tell you, well,
the good thing is there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
We do need to fill the air
here. We need. I need to talk. One thing I wish I knew when I started, I think, and it goes back to even camera gear, and it makes me think of camera gear more than hunting for some reason. But starting out with quality gear instead of trying to piece stuff together, and not even quality gear, but I think like underlayers and making the time out in the field more comfortable than what I was, because there was a lot of times where I was having fun, but I wasn't comfortable. And I think if I would have did either more research or just bucked up and paid the little bit of extra money to be comfortable in a field, I think those beginning days would have been a lot better, because I really do believe that it's true. If you're comfortable out in a field, then you're just a better hunter, because you can pay attention to what's going on around you. You can just be more focused on the actual hunt and trying to not survive, but just, be warm and comfortable and be out there. So, I think I would have jumped right in a little heavier my first couple seasons.
So you're saying you would have just went straight to Merino?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha.
Pretty much.
Yeah, no, I hear that for sure. All right, man. What
else?
There's
a lot of answers there. I feel like.
I mean, there's a million things, and that's why I like that question, because when I was thinking about this, I'm like, man, there's a boatload of things that I wish I knew kind of when I was getting started. But like, what's the one thing? Like, what's the one thing if I had to pick one? Because here's the thing, right? We got a lot of guys that are listening to this show that are either just getting started or maybe haven't even hunted yet for their first time. And it's like, what's one thing that they need to know, before they do that hunt or before they embark on their first season? Like, if we can only impress one thing upon them, what would it be? And I think, being comfortable and having the right gear and all that kind of stuff is definitely one of value for sure.
And motion over calling.
Always. Always.
He knew I was going to throw that in there.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
That was going to be one of my questions, but I figured it would come up anyway, so I left it out.
All right. Here's a softball for you.
Ooh.
Taylor is of legal age to travel anywhere. What would a dream hunt with your son be?
This is funny because I've actually thought about this, and I hate to honestly, like, as corny as it sounds, like every hunt with him is that, right? I mean, it's any time that you get to spend with your kid doing something you love and seeing them being passionate about it too is incredibly valuable and so fulfilling. Like, it's just one, it's why, him and I spend 10 times more time together on the baseball field than we do in the outdoors, because we both love that too. And I love it. Right. So, when we get to do outdoor stuff, I love that as well. So honestly, it would be hard for me to say, because I haven't been to a lot of places myself, but anywhere, and I will say, like I'll say Kansas as an example, like anywhere where just the sheer number and the spectacular of what you see there before you even pull the trigger is so incredible that sharing that type of experience with him would be so cool. I mean, I enjoyed sharing that with like you and Peeler and Vandekamp, and Joe when we went out there. It was like we were kids, we were all like, holy, so seeing a kid have that exposure would be awesome. So, I love that part of the country. I think Kansas is a great spot. It's a great opportunity. I mean, I could say Argentina or I could say Alaska. I could say all these things, but the location ultimately doesn't matter, man. To me, it could be in the back 40, and it's still every bit worth it. So, but if I had to pick up this season and take them, I'd take them to Kansas this year.
So prior to a couple weeks ago, I probably would have said that your answer was semi-corny, even though I love my kids. But now that T-ball is going on and like I'm actually out there, underhanding pitching to my kids, your answer isn't corny at all. And I say that because like I'll be pitching to kids and then my kids get up there and it has like rejuvenated my love for baseball.
Yeah. That's how it happened for me too.
Weird, dude, it makes me smile so big when I see my kids up there and I'm about to pitch to them because they want it, man. They want it so bad. And I'm like, man, it just takes me back to when I was playing, and it's definitely
I tell you
really
right now,
cool.
When my kid's on the mound pitching or when he's at the plate hitting, my heart's thumping harder than it ever did in my playing days. Ever. Because you want them to experience success so bad that like you want it worse than like anything you can do for yourself. And all this boils down to, man, is like my son's, obviously we talked about our kid's birthday is on Tuesday, right? My son's turning 8 years old. That 8 years, I didn't freaking know could go by so fast. Like, where did 8 years of my life go? So I'm thinking about that as like, it's not going to be far down the road, and he's going to be too cool for me. And he's not going to, dad's not going to be the coolest dude on the block anymore. And he's going to want to be chasing, girls and his buddies and all this stuff that's going to come into life that's going to complicate things. So I'm really, truly treasuring the time that we have right now because he's old enough to do things that I enjoy too. And he's not too cool for me yet, but that day's coming. And I'm just trying not to have him grow up too fast. But, so I don't care if people think that's corny. I don't care at all. It is what it is, man. That's how I feel about it. And
no, I'm with you.
Like I said, if he wants to go hunt the back 40 or he wants to go to Alaska, sign me up, man. I'm in on all of it for sure. So
awesome.
All right, man. So my second question is a little bit tabbed on to the first one. So I'm going to challenge you to not give the same answer.
Okay.
But I'm curious to hear you talk a little bit about the one piece of gear in your kit that you cannot live without. Like the thing that you're halfway to your hunting spot and you realize and you forgot it, you turn the truck around to get it because it's that important. That type of gear. Like what is that one piece? Because, and what got me thinking on this was that waterfowl hunting is so gear intensive, right? I mean, there's a million things that you can buy and all of these things, but like, I got a garage full of stuff. I take the same stuff with me almost every time. And it's like, that's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I've had success over and I have confidence in, right? So for you, what's the one piece of gear that you can't do without?
I will say this because I've done it a couple times. Sadly to say that I've had to turn around and go back and get it. And it's for duck hunting, but we'll leave the license gun shells out of it, whatever. A jerk rig, without a doubt. I've turned around a couple times. I've got to my spot and drove back home and got there after shooting light was already up because I did not have it. And I knew that it makes such a big difference that I would be second guessing myself the entire day that I was hunting, the entire time I was there. And then when I got back, if I thought that I could have done better with it, I'd have been very, very upset with myself. So I've made those trips home to grab those. And it's funny because I'm very like, I have all my stuff laid out. I've done that since I was started hunting. Like my clothes are laid out, my gear's laid out, and some of the stuff that's in my garage, it's laid out, but it just might somehow I miss it. And that I have missed like 2 or 3 times, and it's in one extra decoy bag. all my other decoys are ready to go, and for some reason I don't always put that in with them, but I've done it twice in the last 2 years, so I've actually made trips home to get that. But yeah, jerk rig, I think it's very simple, but it is I don't know. I feel like if I was in a place that had more wind, and I feel like a lot of the places we hunt are surrounded by trees, so you don't always get the wind on the water, and you don't always get the decoys moving, and that's something that it's a game changer here.
No, I think that, and particularly for you all who couldn't use motorized decoys until recently, if you wanted to get that kind of that was your option. That's what you had to use. So, I mean, critical is definitely not an overstatement for success when it comes to that, for sure. So I think
it is too. Like, talking about Kansas again, like you go out there and, the fields are so big and everything's so flat. Like, even if there's a couple trees around a water hole, like you're still getting motion. You're still getting quite a bit of wind, even on, a 10-mile-an-hour day. If you get 10 miles an hour here, but you're in a back swamp, like, that isn't even touching the water. That's not even coming through the trees. And so, I don't know.
No, I agree. Where I'm at. For sure. Cool.
All right.
On to number 3, I guess, now?
On to number 3.
Okay.
All right. Diver Duck Josh.
Oh. This is the best Josh.
What duck? Actually, I don't know how to. I don't think that's the right way to word it. What is one of the best diving ducks and a remarkable depth at what it was found at?
So, how deep is the deepest diving duck? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Oh boy. Let's see here. I have to imagine it's probably like ridiculously deep. I mean, I have no idea. I don't think I've read anything about this, so I'm gonna take a stab at like.
First, what duck?
Oh shoot, I have no idea. Merganser. I have no clue.
The merg.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll go down.
Which I don't know. I don't know if this is the actual best one, but it's not a well-known fact. So that's
definitely not that well known because I don't know it. Or maybe I'm just.
There you go. Okay, so a long-tailed duck.
Long-tail, yeah.
All right, so on Lake Ontario, there were 80 birds, 80 long-tail, caught in a fishing net that was 240 feet deep.
Wow. See, I was going to guess like 60 feet, but I was thinking that it had to be a duck that had to be on big, deep water, right? Because most of the divers that we see here locally, they collect on these shallow barge areas where it's easy for them to dive to. So I didn't figure it'd be something that we saw regularly here. Mm-hmm. But it also didn't register in my brain that because in the Chesapeake, like areas that we were hunting when we were out there this year, it was very shallow, relatively speaking. So the longtail didn't necessarily resonate in my brain, but I could see that. I mean, 200 some feet deep is insane. I mean, what are they doing? It's like got to be completely dark down there. I mean, I don't know how that works, but that's pretty wild, actually. Yeah.
Then the whole time I put this up, I was like, I wonder if they were pulling it up and just ran into like a whole, a bunch of them underwater feeding at a shallower depth. But anyway, they were stuck at 240, unless it was the one that like when you pulled, then it closed, and they had to get him around 240. Maybe that's what happened.
I mean, my guess is that if they're running like radar or whatever, sonar or whatever they're doing to see if they're tracking fish on the stuff, they would have saw like a knot of fish and maybe they thought that was fish and it was actually ducks. I mean, I don't know. But 80, I mean, yeah, I don't know, but that's wild. I mean, that's way deeper than I would have ever expected for sure.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, that seems pretty crazy. It must have been something super good down there that they wanted, right? Or else they wouldn't go that deep. That's the case. But
and it's not like they can't eat big fish. They're not a giant bird, so
yeah. I mean, you got to figure. I mean, I know they can hold their breath a long time being underwater, right? I've seen them do it, but I mean, how long does it take them to swim that deep and get back up and hunt while they're down there?
I don't know.
That seems weird, but pretty cool.
It seems like a waste of energy.
Yeah, pretty nature for sure. All right,
I saw Lenny put up a picture of sunset the other day.
Doesn't Lenny follow you on like Instagram or?
He does.
That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty neat.
That's very cool. Super jealous. All right, here, third question from me. This is a little open-ended, so I'm going to let you kind of drive it however you see fit and however the question moves you. But what area in the industry, waterfowl at large, this doesn't have to be business, but just sort of in the waterfowl community world industry, what area do you see the biggest future growth potential? And let me caveat that a little bit. Where I'm going with this is, all we read about now is, at least in our flyway, they're limiting mallards and they're cutting the Canada goose, bag limits. And, their public land's always under attack and hunter numbers are down and hunter recruitment's down. And, there's a lot of like things to be concerned about that are going on. But what do you think is an area that's, poised for positive growth, whether that be product or whether that be youth hunt, whatever? Where do you think is some of the positive things or the best growth opportunities that we've got right now in sort of our little niche of the world with the waterfowl space?
It's tough to say, being coming from the Atlantic Flyway, but I think bird numbers, and I say that just because of the technology and the research we have, and still, all the funding that goes into it and conservation programs that are set up. I really think that it's just our conservation model is the best in the world, right? So if you have to take a cut like we're doing and figure out what's going on, I feel like previously that might not have been able to happen. So even though we are to the point that we are right now. But I think that with the research and things that we can get done with today's technology, I think bird numbers are going to keep going up. And we see that a lot of the long-term averages are up, even with, hunter numbers are down. I don't know, man. I think that the waterfowl, as far as birds and species, I just think that that's going to be a bright spot moving forward. We've said it for a few years that the good old days are now. And I think that they're probably going to keep getting better just because the people in charge and the passionate people that are part of the conservation programs.
Right on, man. I like that.
Is that all right?
Yeah, man. Pretty neat.
Jeez. But yeah, there are some dark days for sure, especially, coming from the Atlantic Flyway.
There's a lot of things that you can focus on in the negative if you so choose. You got all these movements starting up about the migration and the dates and, the hunter recruitment and, all of these things. And everybody wants to fight in amongst the community. And there are challenges to be met out there without question. But there's a lot of good still going on right now. And if we could, leverage those things to help come together to tackle the hard things, as a community built on common ground of these other successes, I feel like we'd get a lot further ahead. But instead, people want to ignore the great stuff and focus on those one or two things that are, that are the challenges. And then they drill down on that. And then they want to go take that to the nth degree. And it's like, man, there's tons of birds in the sky. There's incredible equipment out there. There's so many sectors of the market that are just surging ahead as far as quality of gear and the ability to put you in a better position to have a successful hunt. Is it hard to find land to hunt in certain parts of the country? Absolutely. Was it hard to find land to hunt 20 years ago in certain parts of the country? Absolutely. Right. There's always going to be things. Is it harder to attract a kid off of an iPad to go out and train dogs? Maybe, but those are things that we can work together to solve. Those are problems that we can fix. I was just curious to see where that question would take you. Because I know you guys locally, for example, have seen a little bit of a resurgence in the waterfowl weekend that you guys do in September up there, and there's more interest in there and more involvement, and the community's kind of rallied around that a lot more than it, very similar to what it used to be kind of in the old days. So I thought that was kind of cool, and that's something that you've been sort of involved at the grassroots level and the ground level of rebuilding that, and you actually have a unique situation where kind of things happen jointly between DU and Delta a little bit there locally, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah, and I mean, at the same time, our Delta banquet was a record. It was a record year for us. So, yeah. I mean, that was super cool to be part of. When you have expectations, and then you have levels that you'd like to hit, and then you crush both those numbers. So, it's alive and well. It's coming back,
no doubt.
All right, man. How has your mindset changed from your first season? And by that, what do you get out of hunting now compared to then?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I think to start, I was solely focused on trying to figure the game out, right? Like, just how do I get in position to kill a couple birds, or, how, it was all about success. Trying to have a good hunt and try to have a good experience. And I think now it's changed to more of that next level thought process. It's like, okay, those birds did it great into the decoys. Why? What's the playbook that we put together on that time to make it have them do it right? Trying to get that next level of understanding as to why birds do what they do. How can I get back in that situation again? Really becoming sort of that like student of the game, to use a cliche, right? And really kind of breaking down and critically thinking about the hunt and the conditions and how we played it and what played into our decision making and why did we make that decision and was it the right decision? How did they respond? All of those little pieces of the puzzle that go together, where in the past, when I first started it, I didn't think about that. I was just like, birds want to be here, I need to be there. And maybe that's the best way to go about it sometimes, right? Maybe it's maybe kind of overdoing it sometimes. But when it's something that you're passionate about, you want to learn. At least for me, I want to learn everything I possibly can about duck hunting and goose hunting and how to be successful at it. And so much so that I really don't focus at the end of the day. I don't focus the totality of the hunt. I look at every knot that comes in, and I look at it almost as each individual hunt. That knot came in, we took 3 out of that toll. Well, why was it? Did we shoot poorly? Could we have done something with our decoys differently to get them in a little better position for us to shoot them? What's the wind doing? How's our hide looking? How did all of that play in? Trying to really peel the onion layers back on every situation to just get a really strong understanding of what's happening. So I think probably most people that are passionate about waterfowl hunting probably can relate to what I'm talking about. And then there's probably a large section that don't get that. That probably it's like, yeah, you show up, you shoot them, it's all good, right? And I don't think either group's wrong. Just for me, that's kind of been the evolution of it for me.
I would like to talk about this a little bit as well. And let's talk about it. When I first got into waterfowl hunting, and you start looking like the people that you're going with and the people that that hunt, and you see their pictures or hear their stories, and the first thing you want to do is be like them. And when I say that, you're thinking about all the birds that they're killing and the piles they're putting up. And when we got into it, the DVDs, go and you watch the DVDs and you're like, man, that's awesome. So your first thing, you want a stack of birds from like Canada here locally in Northwest Pennsylvania, which it just doesn't happen very often. But I remember back to some of the first days that we hunted, and we'd kill, I don't know, double-digit birds, 10, 12 birds, be like, man, that sucked. And it's like, why am I thinking that? Instead of where I'm at today, and pretty much exactly what you said, like trying to break everything down, trying to figure out why things happen, and playing the game, playing the sport, and trying to, master everything about it. But there were some days I think back, and it's like I was so upset that we didn't have a pile of 30 birds instead of learning, you know? So for new hunters, don't just go on Instagram and follow all these guides that do it professionally. They get paid to do it, and they have been doing it for most likely a long time, and they've got things figured out. If you're a new hunter, don't, set your expectations. We say it all the time, but don't get frustrated when you don't put those giant piles on the ground, and try and figure out why things are happening.
Yeah. I think if you're going to be a waterfowl hunter and you're going to enjoy it long term, you have to learn to love the process. You have to learn to love scouting and, trying to unlock the puzzle and figure it out, because I equate duck hunting to baseball very similar in this manner. Like, it's built for failure. I mean, it is built for you to not be successful. These are birds that fly in the air that get to look down on you to see, if there's something that they don't like. And, they have ultimate freedom to go wherever they want. They don't ever have to be in gun range. It's not like deer, if you're rifle hunting, like, they can make a mistake and still step in range and you can get lucky. A duck doesn't have to do that. They can fly up high and they never have to give you the time of day if one of a million things is not right. So it's one of those things where we take it for granted when a group of mallards come in and they ball up and they just come right in and do it right. We take that for granted. That is an amazing thing that I just don't, I knew as an early hunter, I didn't value that enough. What I was seeing and what was happening, I didn't value that enough. And now I do, for sure. But yeah, it's one of those things, man. You got to learn to love the process. If you don't love scouting, if you don't love, thinking through the process, if you don't love packing decoys and brushing blinds and learning how to call effectively and use motion properly and all these things, if you're not into that, you're probably not going to be successful on a consistent basis over the long term. You'll definitely find yourself on great hunts. There's no question. But the guys that do it day in and day out and are putting those piles, like the guide you talk about, that they're in areas with lots of birds. They understand what those birds are trying to do, and they know how to put themselves in position to have success every single day. Those guys, they've put in the time and they've spent the time to learn the process. And that's pretty much what it takes, I think.
Hey, I do have a PSA, and I just thought about it because you said packing decoys, but a buddy of mine that actually we talked to quite a bit at the Pine Tuning Expo. He handed out the the million bullets little stickers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you even know this, but last season, 2 seasons ago, not this past season, the season prior, he had a stroke. Oof. And they couldn't figure out why. I mean, healthy dude, athletic, out hunting, and an absolute just killer in the field. The dude does. He's whatever he does. He's very successful at it. And I talked to him a couple weeks ago. And I was like, "Man, how you doing? You look good." And he's like, "I'm feeling good. A couple balance issues here and there, but." He's like, the only thing I can think of why it happened, he said the day after I had the stroke and I was in the hospital, the doctor said, were you in an accident? And he's like, no, not at all. He's like, well, why are your shoulders and neck bruised? And he's like, well, I don't know. That's a good question. He's like, where's the bruising at? So he showed him. Well, they went goose hunting, had a ton of full body decoys, right? He put the straps on both sides of the bags on both sides of his body, and essentially kind of lynched himself, I guess, with the straps. He was carrying I want to say 2 bags of full bodies on each side.
You're talking like cross strapped, over his head, cross shoulder each side.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. And then, it was a muddy field. He's like, it was a 200-yard walk, and I didn't want to do it twice, so I just put as much weight as I could.
Yeah.
So I had all this stuff around my neck, dragging a blind. And he said that night he has a stroke.
Oof.
So another thing for lightweight decoys, but also be very careful with, the amount of pressure that you're putting on your body going through that. But anyway, yeah, that made me think twice and just popped into my mind when you brought that up.
Yeah. That's scary for sure.
But he said that's the only thing he can think of. And his, he had bruises from the straps. So it must have been an early season and, didn't have any type of padding there. But anyway.
All right. So I got 2 questions left, I guess. So I'm going to send this one next. And this one's tough. I'm going to tell you right now, I think this is a tough question. There's a ton of different answers you can go with. And again, none of them are wrong, but I think it's a tough question. In your opinion, who is the most influential person in the waterfowl space? And I'm going to use space as a general term. This could be, deceased. It could be alive. It could be whatever you think it could be. It could be, I'm going to leave that to your inclination as to what the definition of influential means. But to you, who's the most influential person in the waterfowl space?
That is a tough one.
Yeah.
And you know what? And this is, I'm going to go with this one. And I never met the man, but I'm going to say Butch. And I say that because, we got to experience a little bit of RNT when we were down there. But when he passed away, the amount of stories that I read about him and just the way that people, man, you know what? Tim Grounds was the same thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Just, I'm gonna split it up with those 2 for my time period right recently. But those 2 just seemed like awesome guys. They loved hunting. They took the time to teach, and just the legacy that you leave behind, right? And just the way that people spoke about them. I mean, they're freaking legends. That's all you can say about them.
Yeah.
And you've never heard anything bad about them. Like, just the respect level is so high. And especially in the waterfowl community, when a lot of people aren't quick to give praise or anything like that, like those guys really, really put they set the bar high. They set it really high.
Yeah. I asked this question because as I thought about this, my mind went a million different ways. And I'll digress here for a minute. But so when videos and stuff were huge and I was big into deer hunting, I thought Michael Waddell was like the coolest dude. I thought he was like very relatable. He's charismatic. He was out, doing all these cool hunts. I loved watching his videos, and it made me want to hunt. Like I wanted to do all of those things. And then when I got into waterfowl, I did it very differently. It was much like, I didn't know, like, cause at that time, like the foils videos were huge and the zinc stuff. And I really didn't get into any of that. Like I did all like internet research and chat forums and stuff like that. That was kind of emerging. And that's sort of like how I learned. And it got me thinking. It's like, there's guys absolutely like Tim and Butch and those guys that are incredibly influential in the industry and just shaping the way that the waterfowl community has developed over the years. But I think there's an equal argument to be made that the most influential people in the waterfowl space are those nameless, faceless guys that are out there that are willing to take kids hunting, take their grandkids hunting, spending hours, planning those DU and Delta, banquets, and just the guys that put the time in all the time, that do it because they love it. And it's not what they do full time. They don't make calls. They don't make decoys. They're not doing it because their business thrives to it. These are dudes and men and women that choose to do this in their free time, right? I mean, those people are super critical to the lifeline and the lifeblood of the waterfowl industry. And I'm thinking like, for most people, the most influential person in their waterfowl life is probably their dad. If their dad exposed them to it, that's probably the person for them. But like for me, I didn't have that. So, for waterfowl, I don't really know who the most influential person was to me specifically, because it's that nameless, faceless guy that all I knew was his forum handle on duck hunting chat or the refuge or whatever. But like I was reading his posts about how to set decoys, and I was reading his posts about how to conceal blinds and all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm just like, man, there's so many influential people out there that you don't know their names, never seen their face, but through one way or another, they're influencing people in the community. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing when I thought about that, and really sort of made me wrap my head around the community in and of itself. And there's certainly the center linchpins of, you know, keystones of the community, like Tim and Butch. But there's so many people out there that have positive influence on people. It's just wild for me to think about stuff like that. So I was curious to see where you went, and I kind of figured that's the way that you would go, and rightfully so. But I did want to, you know, take the other approach to it as well, kind of on the other hand.
No, I like that. And that makes me think we've got several emails of people requesting us to reach out to certain individuals that put on, you know, youth hunts and all kinds of, you know, they just spend so much time and money, and you don't know their name. You know, you look them up, they probably don't even have a Facebook page. We have a guy in our Delta committee. He'll come to every other meeting, maybe every third meeting, and he'll be like, okay, what do you guys need? And we'll say, well, we need this for that, and this for that. All right, it's done. Come pick it up. You know, and then he's gone. So he just wants to be there and help and make sure that, you know, things are getting done, and he wants no thanks of it. And that's one of the reasons that we haven't reached out to these people. A lot of them, they don't want the recognition. They just want to make a difference. And that's a very, very cool spin that you put on that question.
I mean, because I think about this, and this resorts back to what I was talking about with my son and life flying by and all this kind of stuff. You know, the most valuable thing that every one of us has is time, because you only get so much of it. You don't get any of it back. So it's like the people that choose to devote their time, their most valuable resource, to waterfowl hunting and the spreading of the community and the building of the community and just influencing others in a positive way, man, those people, you know, out there, and there's probably a ton of them listening to this right now. I know there is. You know, you people, you are the ones that are the most influential in my mind, because for every one Butch, there's 500 guys that go after work to their, you know, to go play in that committee or that Green Wing event, right? Across the country, probably more than that, right? Those are the people that the waterfowl industry, the waterfowl community depends on. Like, we have to have those guys. So that's, you know, that's a really big thing that I think, you know, is super important as the community kind of evolves and kind of turns into this, you know, in the age of where we're trying to pull kids off iPads and get them in duck blinds, right? It wasn't always like that. So the job is harder today than it was yesterday, and it's easier today than it will be tomorrow. It's always going to get harder to keep kids connected. And that's the challenge we have. And we need these people that are influential in the community around. And, you know, that's why I love to see when you talk about the community getting behind that event that you guys have and coming back out. Like, I love seeing that. That gives me hope that there are still influential people out there that are fighting this fight for something that we care about. So very, very happy for those folks out there, and just wanted to take a minute to recognize all of them.
Job well done. All right.
Is this the last question? Yeah.
This is, numero cinco. I feel like we're a little longer than what we thought this would go, but
no doubt.
All right. Let me see here. All right. Money is no factor.
Okay.
You get to buy one new item to up your success rate. What is it, and explain how?
Update hunting. I mean, can I buy Habitat Flats?
One item,
not a farm, right? Or a business. That's kind of cheating, because I mean, obviously, you know, if I buy a place where there's ducks, you have better success. Honestly, if I could buy one thing, this may be cheating too, but it's just time. I mean, it's time, because, you know, I'm just like many of the people listening to this show. I work all week. I've got kids that are involved in activities. I got my wife. I've got all these things going on. Finding time to get out and scout and ask permission and find new properties and things like that is the biggest challenge that keeps me from having consistent success, you know. And I don't have the time to get out in the field as much as I want, so you can't kill them from home. Can't kill them at baseball practice. You can't kill them at work. It's like all of these things that pull for your time make it that much harder to have success. So for me, man, I know you can't really buy it, but it's just time is what I would do. If I had to buy something physically, it would probably be, at this point, a duck boat, a legit large boat that could get me onto bigger bodies of water safely, where in the later seasons, and we got more divers pushing down, I would have access to more huntable pieces of water that, are public access type stuff. So that would be the one thing that could probably immediately help me have more success consistently.
That was my answer as well.
Yeah, I figured that was probably yours.
Yep.
All right, hold on. I'm crafting my last answer, or my last question here, because it's a fun question for me. It's a hypothetical for you. And for those that don't know, I give Dan a hard time behind the scenes about, his affinity for certain places and people. Man crushes, he loves Falco, things we talk about a lot on the show. So here's the scenario, Dan, and this is a little bit morbid, so bear with me. You're out in your new duck boat that you just got, and you're hunting with, it's you, Aaron Hitchens from Rockhouse, Barton Ramsey, the Hudnall brothers, and Carson Wentz. So that's five guys right there, not including yourself. You've only got
nice. This is a nice duck boat.
Yeah, it's a nice one. Well, it's not that nice because it's capsized, and you've only got you can only bring one back with you. Who is your number one man crush of those that I've identified that you would have to pick? You can only pick one.
Oh, I hate you. You know what? Here's my answer.
People cannot appreciate how hard of a decision this would be for you.
Here's my answer. I would Band of Brothers it, No Man Left Behind, and I would have my in reach with me to hit the SOS button, and we would all make it back safely because that is the right thing to do.
You cannot pick one. What if I said you're going duck hunting with the crew and you've only got spot for one more seat in the boat and you had to pick from those five guys? Who would you pick to go hunting with you? Everyone's safe and sound. You can't do it.
Who are my other one? Is it just me and one other guy?
No, it's other people that you would not boot out, because that's clearly where you're going. You're just ditching those dudes for your bros. Dude. Let's say it's you and your kids.
We're at 52 and a half minutes right now, so I think
there's the time update. I can tell you right now, I would pick. I know who I would pick, and it has nothing to do with the people, but I know who I would pick.
Who would you pick?
I would pick Barton because he's probably got the best retriever dog of the group. So that would be
no doubt about that.
That would be less work for me and a more enjoyable hunt because I wouldn't have to chase anything down, because typically I don't hunt with the dog when I'm out, so he would get my nod. Not that I don't like all of these other dudes, but
all great dudes.
Yeah, for sure. And you still didn't pick because you just can't possibly do it. Would you like to plug Falco while we're at it?
I do love Falco.
You love some Falco. We're going to start a hashtag like Daily Falco Post on Instagram, I think is what we talked about doing.
It's getting heavy in here.
/ I talked about doing. All right. I think that's all of our questions, right? Is that it?
That's all I got. Yeah.
Neat. Well, that was way longer than what we thought it would be, but
yeah.
Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We got to, chat a little bit about some topics that are, important to us, have a little fun in the meantime, and, all good stuff. So what do you think, Dan? You got one last thing here before we wrap up?
Well, I just feel like the whole Falco razzing is because you're upset that you didn't get to make it. Yes, I am upset that I didn't get to make it, but I was welcoming my daughter to the world, so I'm not upset about that. No. It's just merely stating the obvious, Dan. I mean, don't get sensitive about fact. I'm a fan, man. It was a great time.
Yeah. I mean, we dap up Falco all over the place on this show. I'd love to go out there someday. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Hashtag daily Falco post. All right, one last thing. You got it or no?
No, man, I think I'm good.
Okay.
That was fun. Good questions, good answers. And we should do this. We should do this more often because you want to know something that's fun is I think it was McCormick, which is what episode 120 something. He was really one of the first people to ask questions back.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on this? And it's fun being on that side of it and racking your mind and not just what's the next question I'm going to ask you, but really getting into some issues.
A legitimate back and forth dialogue. Yeah. It's definitely different for us and it's fun. Yeah. It's definitely cool to.
Yeah. Sometimes, when you're in person with someone, you can have those conversations. It's super easy, but when you call someone, they expect to get all the questions and the interactions really one-sided. So this was fun. It was cool. And I did enjoy, was that last week when you popped those other questions on me? Whenever it was, but
that was last week, I think.
So, no, that it's fun and getting to be on that side of it. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your idea for the episode.
Well, hopefully everybody enjoyed it, and I just kid because I love about the bromances and the Falco thing.
Hey, man, you know what? I appreciate good dudes. I appreciate.
I can't wait to cut that out and have it as a little sound card on my board here to include in future episodes.
I appreciate good dudes. Yeah. But no, you know what? I mean, like you said, there's good people out there, and a lot of those guys you mentioned are on the forefront and helping in one way or another. So I'm a fan. Job well done.
Indeed. Well, I'm also a fan of Cornerstone Gundog Academy. It's the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos, including everything that you need to take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com, sign up for their free preview module, and begin your journey today. Cornerstone Gundog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. Also, thank you to Gunner Kennels, Big Kansas Outdoors, and 737 Duck and Goose Calls. Again, guys, please support the companies that support our show, and head over to our website if you're interested in a discount. Got a couple offers from great companies right now, so go ahead and take advantage of that. And on that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this week's episode. All right, guys, that does it for episode 135. Hopefully you enjoyed our little chat back and forth and kind of putting each other on the spot. If you're new to the show, head over to our website or iTunes. You can get caught up on all the past episodes if you're on iTunes. We'd love it if you leave us a 5-star rating and review. It helps other hunters just like you find our show. We'll be back with you next week with a brand new episode and brand new content. So until then, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.